As this video goes live, there are just a few scant days left before, after an agonizing wait for an extra year over that which many poker fans were anticipating, thanks to the dumbed-down but wonderfully nostalgic and thoroughly charming Pokemon Let's Go games gave Game Freak a whole extra year of dev time to polish it up, we are finally getting our first mainline, core series, full-fat, brand new Pokemon RPG series for the Switch, and I'm pretty freaking excited about it. Hello again, I am Blunty. OG Pokemon fan. I've been playing since the days of Blue and Red, and every game since, or every main core series game since. I've skipped some of the side games, but in celebration and anticipation of the new games launching at the end of this very week, on Saturday's live stream over on twitch.tv/bluntnate. If you're not following there already, why not? You enjoy my content clearly, why not pop in and do it live? But I did a 7.5 hour-ish stream of Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, and the point of the stream, the target of the stream, and the celebration part of the stream for the new games was we were targeting two of the generation Pokemon that we know have new Galarian forms. The new area, or the new map, and the new games is Galar, based on, is it Galar? I keep wanting to say Galar, because Australians, we have a bird called a Galar. Is it Galar? It's supposed to be called Galar? Or Galar? It's Galar. But anyway, the two Generation 1 Pokemon we know are getting new Galarian forms are Ponyta and Koffing, and they're following evolution. So that's what we shiny hunted on Pokemon Eevee over the weekend, and I got them both within the first 3 hours of that stream. Luck like I've never had while shiny hunting before. It is glorious and bewildering and wonderful, and it might just be a portent for the joy that is heading our way at the end of this week. Or possibly I've just burnt up my entire supply of RNG luck, so when we do play the new games, I'll never get a Pokeball to hit first try, and I'm never going to find a Pokemon that's shiny, or it has good stats, or anything like that. I might have just burnt up the entire stock of my luck right there. Just suddenly occurred to me. That's what would have happened. Either way, that 7.5 hour-ish long stream gave myself and my chat room peeps plenty of time to chatter and discuss and wonder and dream and talk about our expectations and our hopes and dreams for these new series games. What are we going to hope to be able to do in it? What are the new mechanics going to mean? The new Pokemon, the new evolutions, how is the new gameplay mechanics going to change how we play? Are they going to be good, bad? And we talked for ages. So I thought I'd take the opportunity to boil down some of those thoughts, hopes, and dreams, expectations and stuff into a video here on the YouTube for a sort of permanent marker in the sand. That's not a very good metaphor. You can't put a permanent marker in the sand because sand by its nature is... Let's just say I wanted to sort of permanently record some of my thoughts and opinions and stuff. So then after the game, after we've put, 100 hours into the game, we can come back and look at this and go, well, that played out. That didn't play out. You were dead wrong about that. What were you even thinking? Oh, but that bit was right. And by the way, before we do start getting dug into this in a big way, a little reminder, I will be streaming some of the world's first Pokemon Sword and Shield gameplay over on my Twitch channel. Again, twitch.tv/bluntnate, because of the fact that I'm Australian and the way that the release is working. It's unlocking at midnight because I've bought Pokemon Shield digitally. So it's unlocking midnight because Australia is one of the first places in the world to get midnight, apart from Australia Junior. Over that way a bit, New Zealand. So I will be streaming at midnight, which means I'll be one of the first people in the world to be streaming the game, which should be pretty exciting. So pop along if you're curious, and we'll have a big old natter about it there as well, live, as I'm discovering the game. Should be fun. And if you're trying to figure out the whole time zone thing so you can be there on time, don't worry. Big shout out to Jamets515, one of my stream regulars. Thanks, bro. He did the time zone calculation stuff, so I'll pin that in a comment in the down below area there for you. And if you can't make the live stream, I do have a secondary YouTube channel, which I don't mention much in the videos here because, but that's where a lot of replays from my streams go up, including the recordings of the full on-stream game playthrough thing. Let's Play we will be doing live for the Pokemon Shield game. So you can head over there, subscribe, and get caught up on that. There's currently my second playthrough of the Outer Worlds going up there, which was pretty fun. I was role-playing a fun character, so you might want to check that out while you wait. So, desperate plugs for my live stream channel and my secondary YouTube channel aside, let's dig into it. As you might be picking up on, I am pretty excited about it. I've been trying desperately to keep my expectations as low as possible, because if you go in with lowered expectations, it gives the game the opportunity to surprise you and fill you with joy. If you go in with high expectations, if they're just way too high, the only thing the game can possibly do is disappoint you. So that's been my general rule for years now. Movies, TV, video games, just go in with lowered expectations. Try and keep it under control. Try and keep the hype train brakes as pulled on as hard as you can. The wheels are screeching against the iron rails. That's not the sound train brakes make. As you can see, I'm kind of losing the battle with the hype. Even the hype metaphor is getting away from me in my excitement. But the fact is, the Pokemon as a game series, as an RPG game series, has never been the most challenging game. It's never been the best looking game of its generation. Has never been the best written. But there's something just joyful about the specific mix that is Pokemon. There's something fun, just intrinsically, deeply, soulfully fun and enjoyable about what Pokemon is and the way it has been presented to us throughout the last couple of decades. So it's hard not to be pretty excited about a new one. I have actually got to play the game already. That's what you're seeing on screen now, of course, but only the canned demo. Nintendo have been touring around a few of the most recent gaming conventions for the past few months, which was a time-limited demo of a single gym. So I experienced none of the truly new stuff I'm most excited about, like primarily the completely revamped Overworld, for example, where we not only seemingly get a much more open exploration-style gameplay compared to the relatively linear paths and small walled-off areas of the older games we've been getting, but for the first time ever, we have a free moving camera, so we can look around and behind objects and structures and stuff, which I am hoping will not only lead to some fun treasure hunts and puzzle-solving options and new types of puzzle solving, but will probably, or hopefully, also play into some of the Pokemon hunting techniques, perhaps even tracking, looking for footprints behind a tree or a bush or something like that. That one small change alone of a free-moving camera can open a pretty intriguing number of doors for that kind of stuff. But not only that, but as a gamer who also loves his photography, anytime I get even slightly more control over my game world view so I can get, screenshots just a little bit more like I want them, I'm a very happy Blunty indeed. Oh, and in case you're wondering what the living buggery I'm actually doing in the gameplay, you're seeing from my time at PAX Australia last month, yes, I'm playing that way deliberately. Yes, I know it looks bad, and it's not the way you're supposed to play, and I'm doing dumb things, but I wanted to draw out the battles a bit, and even lose around purposefully so I could see a bit more of the UI, and see how switching works, and see how the user interface all shakes down. Just blasting through the gym wasn't really the most interesting part of that experience for me. And the parts where it looks like I can't figure out the puzzle, well, part of that was me just figuring out the puzzle, and part of that was me just getting a feel for character movement, animation, the way the camera moves around, and just generally messing around with the feel of how it controls when you're just moving through the world. And the good news is, of course, it feels just like you'd expect a modern era Pokemon game to feel. And the user interface was so natural, I didn't realize till afterwards, I barely even thought about the controller, what buttons I was pressing, where to find stuff in the user interface, how to switch out a Pokemon, how the battle menu works, and all that sort of stuff. It was just sort of automatic muscle memory stuff. I was using a Pro Controller, by the way, which is lovely because you can actually use a Pro Controller in this game, unlike Pokemon Let's Go, which, because of its waggle mechanics, wouldn't let you use the Pro Controller. Grr. But yeah, the fact is, I was never, for even an instant, I realized thinking, oh, where do they put this feature? It's all kind of where you expect it to be. You can get to it just by muscle memory alone. I mean, it does look and feel a bit different, and there are different options in there because there are different game mechanics, but it's all pretty sensible. Certainly a lot more sensible than the way they did it in Pokemon Let's Go, whose menu was a bit confused. I got lost in it a couple of times. I mean, it's very simplistic, but it didn't feel very organized. You know what I mean? This felt organized and pure and clean and Pokemon-y. Now, one area of the information we have about the game where I've heard old schoolers whine and complain a lot is the fact that, while, as is always the case, not every Pokemon ever is in the game as an obtainable species out in the wild, but for the first time since I think about Generation 3, there are Pokemon in the Pokedex that we just cannot trade into the game from anywhere, like at all. They're just not coded into the game. And Game Freak have said, well, we've got 900-ish Pokemon. It's a lot of work to make brand new models, brand new animations, brand new, code all of those Pokemon into a single Nintendo Switch game where they're also building from scratch. It's the first time I've done a game for the Nintendo Switch. The Pokemon game on the Nintendo Switch is a big shift from platform, from style, from presentation, from all that kind of stuff. And just one of the things that had to leave by the wayside was the hopes and dreams of getting every Pokemon ever into the Pokedex in the game. And I think that's fair enough from a sort of workload perspective and what their priority should be, and whether they should prioritize getting every Pokemon in there, or whether they should prioritize just making the game as good as it possibly can be with the Pokemon they can code into the game. I know this is disappointing and frustrating for many people out there because we all have our favorite Pokemon who may or may not be in the game. We may have some special and precious Pokemon, sort of shinies and perfect IV Pokemon that we've worked very, very hard to breed up and get perfect movesets on, and all that kind of stuff. We all have collections of those Pokemon sitting on older games or sitting in Pokemon Bank. And there is Pokemon Home coming, which is a Pokemon Bank-like service that will let you send Pokemon into the cloud storage, basically. But because not every Pokemon is coded into the game, you can't then trade from Pokemon Home into Pokemon Sword and Shield. Only the ones that are in the game's coding, basically. So that's been frustrating a lot of people. I know I personally have a collection of rare and special event Pokemon and legendaries and shinies, of course. I've got a couple of boxes worth of shinies sitting on Pokemon box. Or Pokemon with special memories attached. Like one of the things we do in the streams is when people sort of donate above a certain amount, they get to nickname a Pokemon. Just a little fun thing we do. And I've kept all of those, of course, in Pokemon box. Just as a little chain of memories and fun, wacky, and sometimes a bit naughty names and stuff like that. And some of those won't be able to come with me into the new game. And I've got a couple of boxes worth of special legendaries and mythical Pokemons. You know, stuff that it's just impossible to get anymore unless you did the event back in the day and things like that. Who knows, will they be able to bring those across? Are they coded into the game? But I'm actually not all that upset about it because fact is we're getting, let me check the number here, 81 brand new Pokemon for specific to this region. 81 brand new Pokemon to explore and find and catch and train and evolve and all that kind of stuff. In addition to that, we're getting, let me check the number again, I've got it written down here somewhere, 13 Galarian forms of older Pokemon, so Ponyta and Weezing and Zigzagoon. We know about those ones already. They're all getting their own new Galarian forms. They look pretty fun. I like Zigzagoon's look. It looks pretty cool. So that brings the total number of new or newish Pokemon up to 91, which is about average for a new generation game. They normally bring in 100-ish new Pokemon, sometimes a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more, but it's always close to 100 new Pokemon when a new generation comes along. So that's been pretty consistent so far. When you add those 91 new Pokemon to the older Pokemon, without special forms and everything from older generations, apparently we're getting up to about 400 Pokemon in this game. And I feel like that's a pretty good number to hunt down and chase and catch and train and evolve. And whether you're going for the complete Pokedex to get your shiny charm or whether you're working on the much more challenging option of going for a living dex, having one example of every possible evolutionary chain in your Pokemon storage. I feel like 400's a pretty decent number to keep that challenge going. I know, we come back to the fact that, my favorite or my special Pokemon or my shiny Pokemon, I wanted to bring that in so I could use it competitively or whatever. Well, it's an opportunity to start from scratch and do something different. Find a new path, not just do the old thing over and over and over again. Silver lining? I mean, the fact is, it is not the first time Pokemon fandom has faced this. There have been other games in this series that have come out that have not been backwards compatible with older generations. I think I mentioned Generation 3. They changed the underlying system of the way Pokemon work with sort of natures, and they changed the way IVs and EVs and all that sort of stuff worked, and it was just impractical or impossible to move older generations across to those games. So, I mean, that was a thing back in the day too. The internet wasn't quite what it was back then, so the nerd rage was restricted to forums and things like that instead of screeching at Game Freak on Twitter and things like that and giving them a bad time. The raging fans out there pissing their pants and screeching like spoiled, entitled 2-year-olds out there. Just calm down. It's just a video game. And there's plenty of stuff to do in this new video game. Another thing I'm looking forward to is evolved hunting techniques. I'm not sure how much of this is just hopeful and how much of this will wind up being a thing. But what we know so far has led me down a certain thought path that has me pretty excited. I mean, once upon a time, all we had to do was thrash back and forth in long grass, hoping to trigger the magical RNG to ping up a poke for us. But in these new games, not only has Game Freak brought one of the most enjoyed things about the Let's Go games into it, that being the Overworld Pokemon, so you can see where Pokemon are and you can just walk up to them and encounter them. Being able to see them spawn and roam around on the ground and in the sky was both a joy and it brought some much needed energy and life to the Overworld experience, I thought. It made it feel much more alive and filled with Pokemon and sort of much more naturalistic. So I'm looking forward to that coming back to us. But also, it made shiny hunting a new kind of fun. It's not my most favourite form of shiny hunting ever, but it was at least quite different from the shiny hunting techniques we've had before, and it was legitimately fun. I did it just this weekend. I opened the video with that. Had a bunch of fun on that stream. And yes, some people did lament the completely missing sort of core aspect of Pokemon being that of the random encounter. And Pokemon Let's Go, Eevee and Pikachu weren't considered core games anyway, so I was okay with that. I did miss it, personally. The random encounter stuff is always fun. But that's coming back in a way in these new ones. So we've got the overworld Pokemon, but we've also got Pokemon that hide in the grass. And it's a bit like the Gen 3 games where you see rustling grass and an exclamation point above the grass. You go, oh, there's a Pokemon over there. No idea what it is. But this time around, instead of just... In the older games, you had to, to get somewhere you had to walk through a patch of grass or two. Sometimes your team was buggered up. Sometimes you just wanted to get somewhere. Or you're going through a cave and you just wanted to get somewhere, but you had to stop every 3 seconds to fight a Zubat in a cave. And that was frustrating and annoying, but also part of the game experience. So in these new games, the way they've done it is kind of optional to have a random encounter. So you can choose to have those random encounters, and you can set up a self-styled rule in your head. Go, anytime there's a random encounter waiting for me, a mystery encounter waiting for me, I have to go encounter it. Or you can just walk around it because you just want to go to town and buy some fresh Pokeballs because you're on a hunt for something. So it's nice to have that option in the game. It's nice to have a mix of being able to track down specific Pokemon in the overworld. You can hunt them down. You go, oh, Zigzagoon over there. Want you? Eevee, need that Eevee. And go and get it. And also have those mystery random encounters for a bit of extra sort of Magic 8-Ball excitement as well. You never know what you're going to get. So I feel like we're getting the best of both worlds this time. And these types of mechanics also fold into different types of hunting possibilities. Because unlike in Pokemon Let's Go, where the overworld Pokemon were just sort of wandering around aimlessly on their little AI paths, sometimes they'd sprint in a random direction, and that'd be it. But this time, there's a little bit more AI in these Pokemon. Some Pokemon are quite bold and brave, and they'll come up to you. Some are aggressive, and they'll rush up to you, and they'll chase you down and trigger an encounter on their own accord. Some Pokemon will be quite shy. You'll have to sneak up to them to actually encounter them. Some of them you'll have to whistle down from the sky. Some of them, when you whistle, they'll run away from you. All this can lead into sort of exciting hunting mechanics. I'm very excited about sneaking coming back, because that was one of my favorite things. Again, Generation 3 was a fantastic generation. Hands up, who loved Generation 3? Especially the remakes. Oh, so much fun. But the remakes of Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire had sneaking mechanic. You'd sneak up to rustling grass and encounter Pokemon, and there was a shiny hunting mechanic built in and around that system as well. And you could also, by doing that technique, get more powerful Pokemon, special Pokemon with better IVs, or special moves that they wouldn't ordinarily have. That was all kinds of fun. So I'm hoping all of that comes back with this new sneaking mechanic as well. Not just you have to sneak up on the shy Pokemon. I hope all of that, special, shiny, IV, special moves, egg moves kind of thing. I hope all that comes back with this new sneaking mechanic, because that was one of my absolute favorite parts of Generation 3. I did so much of that. But these systems also give us an opportunity to have a more immersive is the word I'm looking for. It's a more immersive hunting experience. They can track down your Pokemon. I'm hoping you have to sort of chase them down. I'm hoping that the whistling mechanic comes into it. So, in real life hunting, in certain kinds of hunting, certain types of deer, for example, hunters will, they'll wait and they'll call the deer in and wait for him, and then they see a deer. Sometimes the deer will sort of start wandering behind some brush or a tree or something and, blocking your shot. So you can't take your shot anymore. So a hunter will, instead of watching that deer sort of wander away or crest a hill out of sight, they will call out to it, hey, oh, hey! And that will make the deer stop. You go, oh, what the hell was that? Is that danger? And that will give them time enough to take the shot. So I'm hoping the whistling mechanic is something like that. So if a shy Pokemon is running away from you, you just go, you whistle. You just give it a bit of a whistle and it will stop in its tracks, and that will give you the opportunity to make up some ground on it. So, you still have to sneak up on it, perhaps. Through the grass, even. It may stay hidden in the grass, sneak up on it. But that whistle might give it just enough time for you to catch up to it or something. The whistling mechanic, we know for a fact, is one of the mechanics you have to use to call down Pokemon from the sky. So unlike in Pokemon Let's Go, where you had to jump on a flying Pokemon to meet them in the sky, this time you can call them down to you. But yeah, I'm hoping that whistling mechanic comes in a much more nuanced way, in a lot of different ways as well, and tied into the sneaking mechanic. So I'm looking forward to a more nuanced Pokemon hunting system. How much of this, like I said, is just pure hopes and dreams, and how complicated do Game Freak want to make this? But this kind of thing I'm hoping for. This kind of thing I want. But yeah, I'm just happy to have a bunch of different hunting systems to begin with. Some of the smaller sort of gameplay mechanics I'm looking forward to is being able to access Pokemon storage at any time. And this is another one that a lot of fans are kind of umming, ahhing, and pissing and whining about, depending on which side of the fence they're on. Some think it sort of takes away from the game because that's not how it worked in old games. Some people, like me, are welcoming it because it's a nice quality of life thing. I don't think it affects gameplay in any negative way, because we could always just backtrack to the last town we're at, go to a Pokemon Center, go to the PC, switch out whatever Pokemon we need, then wander back to what we needed to. That wasn't a fun part of the game. That was just time wasting. That was just dredge. That didn't enhance the game in any way. unless you were sort of very, very dedicated in role playing and didn't use quick travel at all. So you just trudge back and trudge away. Maybe that was part of your experience. Maybe you lament that that's gone now. But in Pokemon Let's Go, we had that system where you could just open your Pokemon box at any time, switch out your team at any time, outside of special events and gyms, which is the same in the new games. You can't use it in gyms, for example, because that would take away way too much of the challenge. And you can't use it in battles, obviously, because that would take away too much of the challenge. You can't use it in Gigantamax encounters, because you can only take one Pokemon into that encounter anyway. So I don't think it's removing any challenge from the game. It's just removing a bit of trudging, a bit of backtracking, a bit of back and forth to the last town. And even if you hate this new mechanic, even if you think this dumbs it down too much, even if you think it's a baby mechanic, a hand-holding mechanic, making things too easy, you don't have to use it. It's an option in a menu. You can ignore it. You can just have a little self-set mind rule. I mean, for 20 years, Pokemon players have been doing this, setting up their own little rule systems that they, through their own willpower stick to. You've got special playthroughs. You're only, single typing playthrough, or you don't heal. I've done that myself. We did a playthrough where I couldn't heal unless I flipped a coin. I flipped a coin, comes up heads or tails. That debates whether I could heal or not. That was kind of a fun playthrough. You could just do that. And you say, well, I've got the option to open the Pokemon box at any time, but I'm not going to do it unless I'm in a Pokemon Center, because that's the way it's always been done. I think it's a bit silly to be mad about it to begin with, because the way the old system worked, if you already had a team of 6, any additional Pokemon you caught was magically teleported away to a computer far, far away with no apparent mechanic. So apparently some Pokemon players are perfectly okay with believing that's possible. Instant teleportation of Pokemon as soon as you catch it goes away, and you have to go to a PC to get it. But they can't possibly imagine a Pokemon world in where you had a handheld device that could digitally store Pokemon, as opposed to a PC in a center somewhere. It's important. No! A handheld device where you can store Pokemon and pull out Pokemon at any time? That's impossible! Ridiculous! Instant magical teleportation to a distant PC, perfectly fine. It's just coming from those people who just want to be mad about something. They just want to be mad about something, so they grasp at these stupid little straws. Oh, they changed that! I'll be mad about the change. Didn't really think about the change that much. It's actually a good change. But I'm going to be mad about it anyway. Bah! Grr. I feel a bit of a numpty now that you've explained it to me. I'm also looking forward to the new curry making mechanic. Not just because I personally love Japanese curry and rice. It's one of my favorite foods on the entire face of the planet. I love eating it and I love making it. Just delicious, lovely, beautiful. One of the most perfect comfort foods on the planet as far as I'm concerned. In Pokemon, I've always been a bit hot and cold on the various food type mechanics. The berries and the pastries and all that kind of stuff. I did like the juice making stuff. I think, again, Generation 3. Generation 3 was just one of the best generations. Hands up in the chat. Again, twice now. Generation 3, one of the best generations ever. Yeah. No, wait. Hang on. I got that wrong. Generation 2 was the juice making, right? Berry juice came out of Generation 2. I just lost a bit of Pokemon cred there. Come on, it's 22 years worth of games. I get mixed up sometimes. But I like the berry juice stuff, where you mix different berries to get a berry juice to do different things. Well, the curry seems to be like that. We don't know exactly what it's going to do. I don't think we've had it officially confirmed what it is, but I assume it's going to be a bit like berry juice in that it's a round limited or time limited boost of some stats. So extra attack or extra defense, or perhaps it's a curative type thing, so you can cure, sleep and poison and paralysis. Paralysis is a tricky word sometimes. But it's probably some sort of stat boosting thing or curative thing, and probably quite temporary. I personally hope they give it a little extra twist and we get a shielding type effect, so you can make a curry that will just prevent you from getting paralyzed. That one was deliberate, just in case you're wondering. Or prevent you from getting the sleep condition. That would be a nice little addition, because we've had plenty of different curatives in the past. And we've had held items in the past that could prevent certain status conditions from happening. What if we just had a temporary, a curry effect? The minigame also seems pretty cool too, because it's a lot more complex than most of the other ones we've had. You've got up to 100 different recipes, apparently. 100 different curry recipes possible. They probably do like 8 different things, and there's just different strengths and things like that, but it's still fun to think about. So you've got all your different ingredients going in. There's a stirring mechanic. There's a mechanic where you have to fan the flames to get it hot enough. And there's a mechanic where there's a time-based mechanic where you put your heart into it or something to make it extra powerful. So it's a bit like a midway point between the juice making stuff from Generation 2 and the cooking system from Breath of the Wild, which I loved as well, because that was all sort of time-based and ingredient-based and things like that. So you smush those together and it sounds like it could be a very fun mechanic indeed. You can even do it multiplayer, which does make me wonder about the old adage about, too many cooks spoiling the broth and things like that. But I got a funny feeling that the multiplayer is probably going to make the better quality curries. But how is that exactly going to work in practical terms in the game? Don't know. Fun to find out, though. And alongside that, we've also got the regular permanent stat boosting stuff like zinc and calcium and iron and all that kind of stuff. All that's coming back. But we've also got experience candies, which work a little bit like rare candies, except experience candies, instead of rare candies, if you don't know, if you're a Pokemon noob, bump you up a level instantly. Experience candies literally start filling your experience bar, and the more better the candy is, the more experience you get. So you can level up possibly multiple times from a single experience candy. If you feed a very high level experience candy to a low level Pokemon, who knows? And the way you get these is there a reward system from the Gigantamax battles. You've seen in the trailers, the great big Pokemon out in the wild. They're all spooky and smoky and stuff. And there's a special battle technique where you can only take one Pokemon with you. And there's a multiplayer aspect of that as well. So you and up to 3 other players, all with one Pokemon each, can battle the thing. And we'll circle back to that mechanic later on in the video. But as a reward for that system, you get these experience candies. And I'm hoping that unlike rare candies, which just bump you up a level but do nothing for your stats, I'm hoping the experience candies drag your stats along with your level up. Because if you level up a Pokemon with nothing but rare candies, it's comparatively weak compared to a Pokemon at the exact same level that's been leveled up traditionally through battling. Because battling earns you experience points and effort values and whatnot. But rare candies don't. So it was always a bad idea to use rare candies unless you were just trying to kick an evolution for the sake of the Pokedex. If you're going to use that Pokemon, never use rare candies on it. I'm hoping experience candies are the other side of that coin. That you can, through your effort in fighting these Gigantamax Pokemon, actually get a genuine, worthy reward for one of your other Pokemon that you're trying to train up and make bigger and stronger and healthier and more powerful. In addition to that, and perhaps even more exciting, are mints. You can feed your Pokemon a mint. And what a mint does is change your Pokemon's nature to whatever you want it to be. And if you're unfamiliar with the way sort of certain systems in Pokemon work, Pokemon's nature affects the way it levels up as far as its stats go. Certain natures will level up your speed faster or slower, or your defense better or worse, and things like that. So getting the right Pokemon with the right nature combination is always the goal, because certain Pokemon will benefit from extra, defense. Of course, some will benefit from extra attack. So you get the appropriate nature for the appropriate Pokemon and the appropriate moveset you're trying to do with it. And it's a whole very complicated system. Pokemon is amazingly deep. You can play it as a 4-year-old and just go and play it. Or you can play it, as a complete math nerd and go all the way down this incredibly deep chain tree system to get the absolute most powerful Pokemon ever. It's one of the things I like most about Pokemon. It's so well designed to be played at a very shallow level or a very, very deep level and get exactly the same amount of fun out of it, depending on what you want to do. It's wonderful. But yeah, changing your Pokemon's nature with a mint. That's wonderful. Because before, if you caught a particularly rare Pokemon, so it had perfect IVs or it was a shiny, it was a classic example. There's lots of times you catch a shiny, it's just the wrong nature to be practical to use in any serious way if you're a competitive type player. It was always a bit disappointing. Wonderful shiny, rare and special, bit crap. Now you can change that. Wonderful shiny, rare and special. Here's a mint. Now you're awesome. Destroy. What else are we talking about? Oh, the foe character, the friend/foe character, the antagonist, friendly antagonist, not the big boss, or the bad team or Team Rocket or Giovanni or whatnot. The friend character that goes with you. In the very first games, it was Gary, or as most of us will know him, Dickface. That's almost always what I called him. He was wonderful. Wonderful to hate because he was such a arrogant, nasty, mealy-mouthed little prick. You just got such a joy out of crushing him into the dirt every time he challenged you. He's like, oh, you're a bit of shit, let's fight. And then you punch him right in the middle of his Pokemon's face and they just go down in a sack of potatoes and you just felt wonderful about it. On the other hand, again, coming back to Generation 3, I'm pretty sure I got this one right, you had Wally, who was kind and gentle and quiet and shy and sympathetic and compassionate and just kind of vulnerable. And he's just trying to make his way in the world and just, find his own identity and get out of the shadow of his overprotective parents. And there was just a surge of sympathy for him. I loved Wally. I was rooting for Wally. But the game forces you to kick the shit out of him every now and again. And it felt terrible. I hated every time I had to face Wally. Because you don't want to just lose. You've got some pride. But every time you had to just mush his Pokemon into a pink paste on the ground, so you had to scrape them up and take them back to the Pokemon Center to get them healed up. I felt miserable and guilty about it. Didn't feel that way about Dickface. So I'm hoping our friend slash competitor antagonist guy, who's called Hop, I'm hoping he's a bit more like Hal from Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun Ultra Moon. Because Hal, while he was friendly and wonderful and joyful and enthusiastic, was a bit of a feckless twat. So I didn't mind telling him to shut up and put him in his place every now and again. You know, he was our friend, but also wasn't quite as sympathetic as Wally was, for example. So I didn't mind slapping Hal around a bit. So with a bit of luck, Hop is somewhere between Hal and Gary, Dickface. One of my other more recent additions to the game series is coming back in the form of Wonder Trading, except it's not called Wonder Trading anymore. And this is a bit of joy-hate kind of thing for me, because I loved Wonder Trading, especially when we were streaming. We'd normally wind down Pokemon streams for the last half hour or so with just a big session of Wonder Trading, sending out some rare Pokemon or some some version-exclusive Pokemon, and just, generally seeing what we can get, or some bred-up Pokemon, some Breejecks and things like that. Just send them out and see what we get back. It was a bit of a fun lottery thing, so we just churn away on that, just bing, 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 back and forth. And it was fun seeing what we'd get and finding out, which kind of people from different areas of the world would send back to us. Americans always sent out trash. Almost always sent out trash Pokemon. Zigzagoons and just the level 1 crap from the first area. And Americans were just greedy and stupid and selfish, and it's very American of them, really, when you really think about it. I know most of my viewers are American, but you know what I mean, right? You've played Pokemon, you've traded with other Americans on Wonder Trade, you know what I mean. Trade with someone from Japan, they almost always send out cool stuff. I mean, you get some trash occasionally because some people are just shit, but you always get cool stuff back. Or Germany, had good luck with Germans, and Europeans were a bit 50-50. Australians were a bit 50-50 as well. I always tried to trade out good stuff. I tried to be nice guy Blunty. I almost never traded out crap. But the equivalent system in the new games is called Surprise Trade. And I don't feel like it's going to be as dynamic and fun, because Surprise Trade is designed to work in the background. So it's more streamlined. You pick a Pokemon and you're going to go, Surprise Trade. Blink. And then you just go back to the regular game and you wander around, you catch and explore and stuff. And then some indeterminate amount of time later, once the system's made up its mind who you wants to trade with, you just go bing and you'll get a Pokemon out of the trade. And on the one hand, that is fun because you never know what you're going to get. On the other hand, it's much, much slower. It's much more seamless. And you don't have to save after every trade, because Wonder Trading was always send it out, save, because the game would save automatically to stop you sort of trying to exploit the system. Send it out, trade, save. It was a bit chunky and slow and clunky. It was just clunky. It was fun, but clunky. So they've tried to streamline that, but they've removed some of the fun out of it. So you're not just sitting in a Wonder Trade interface going bing, 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 back and forth for hours on end. It just happens in the background, which is less exciting. Another nice quality of life thing, we can nickname traded Pokemon. If they come to you from Surprise Trade or whatever, if they haven't been nicknamed already, you can give them a nickname. Couldn't do that in other games. Any Pokemon that was traded, even if it had its default name, you couldn't rename it. If it has its default name now, you can rename it to whatever you like, which is a nice sort of quality of life thing. I like that. Found out they're doing a very interesting thing with Gigantamax stuff, which I'm looking forward to. They're going to be sort of occasionally timed events. So certain, perhaps quite rare Gigantamax Pokemon are going to be more common during certain windows of time. At launch, they're doing a rare Butterfree, a Gigantamax Butterfree, across both games, and then each of the individual games has its own particularly rare Gigantamax. I forget what the one for Sword is, but the one for Shield is one of the new ones, a giant, what's the crow one? Corvax, Corvino something. The big black crow thing. I'm still learning the names of the new Pokemon. Give me a break. But having those as timed events to sort of encourage people to keep coming back to the game every couple of weeks or every couple of months, or dropping in, or just for the sake of variety. If you are just sticking with the game for months and months and months on end, just playing, just having that little spike of variety every now and again, just being able to chase down a special Gigantamax Pokemon is quite fun too. On the Gigantamax battling system, and I said I'd come back to this is where we'll come back to it, I'm a bit worried about how it's going to work, because you can do it multiplayer, 4 people at a time, each with one Pokemon. Only one of those Pokemon from your 4-player team can have its own Gigantamax form. And it only lasts for 3 rounds. You can only do it once per entire battle. But in order to do that, and in order to set up a balanced team, so you go in with a technique. You go, well, I'm going to concentrate on status effects. I'm going to concentrate on healing. I'm going to concentrate on DPS, or not DPS because it's turn-based, but damage. You want everyone to have their own specific role so you can do it very efficiently and very sort of strategically, and not just all just go attack, scratch. But that requires communication. And we all know how Nintendo feels about communication. They're terrified that any communication system they put in a game is going to be abused by, well, creepy people for a start, because it's a kid's game. It's targeted and sold to kids primarily. I mean, there's lots of grown-ups who really love the games, of course, but it's marketed towards kids. So they want to make it as kid-friendly as possible. And Nintendo as a whole want to be kid-friendly as possible. They've had to shut down services in the past because people were sending dicks across PicChat and things like that. They want to keep it as safe and reliable and as pure as possible to protect the kids. And that's absolutely reasonable. But then they put in a system like this in a game where communication is going to be absolutely key to doing it properly. How is that going to work? How is that balance going to be struck? Protect the kids, make the game system work properly. I'm very worried about that, and they haven't been very clear about how that system is going to work. I'm sure if you and several in real life mates or online mates, or in my case, friends and viewers and chatters on the stream, I'm sure we'll all link up as a stream and sort of take these on, because I know for a fact that several of my longtime viewers are just as passionate about Pokemon as I am. So we're probably going to get together and do this together and communicate via the stream or via the chat room or via a Discord chat, voice chat, whatever. But what about the RNG stuff? What about the rando matchup stuff? What if you don't have that many people in your life that play Pokemon, or you're playing at a different time of night? And it worries me how that system is going to break down. It's exciting to see. It's something fresh and new and interesting, never been done before in that particular way. And it will be really fun to explore that system and sort of exploit it, trying to find the perfect balance of a team just to melt these big Pokemon down and get the special rewards and all that kind of stuff. But I'm worried about how it's all going to work out, because communication, just at the seed of it, communication and Nintendo. I mean, the train's going on parallel tracks, but never the twain shall meet, so they say. Aside from that, the other things I'm looking forward to is just the aesthetic. I love the way the game looks from what we've seen so far. The cities look beautiful. Some of the landscapes look stunningly beautiful. And again, Pokemon, coming all the way back to the beginning of it, Pokemon has never been the best looking game of any generation it's ever been in. First generation to the most recent generation, there's always been other games, other RPG games in a similar art style or something that always look better. Pokemon has never been the best looking game of its class. That doesn't mean they can't look beautiful, and this one does look beautiful. I really like the art style and everything, so I'm looking forward to that. One of the other things I'm hoping that's included is Pokemon Let's Go was the first Pokemon game ever to give you individual volume controls for sound and music, and you had 3 different sliders for sound, so you can just turn down the music and have the rest of the game sounds be unaffected. I've wanted that in the Pokemon game forever, because when you're doing stuff like a shiny hunt, for example, you're in one area and you're doing a battle over and over and over and over and over again for hours on end. That constant drone of the area music and the battle music can wear pretty thin over time. So being able to turn that music off, have all the game sounds on so you can still hear what's going on. You can hear a Pokemon cry, so you can chase it down, all that kind of stuff. I really, really hope we still get individual control over the music slider in this game. If there's one hope, one tiny little mechanic I hope they keep in that we don't know about already from Pokemon Let's Go, it would be that music slider. But that's about it. I've talked now for, well, it's been about an hour's worth of recording. Some of that is waiting for trucks to go by, so I don't know what this video is going to edit down to, but hopefully it's been entertaining and interesting enough for you to stick with it throughout the entire video. And hopefully you've been leaving your own comments in the down below area about what your hopes and feelings and thoughts are about what I've been saying and what your hopes are saying, what you've heard. And I hope to see you on the live stream on launch day. If not, maybe on the secondary channel, you can rewatch them. If not, I'm sure I'll be doing lots of Pokemon related content on the main channel here as we sort of break down the game, thoughts and feelings. I'm probably not going to do a sort of full on review because, well, quite frankly, the internet's going to be flooded with those. And I didn't get an early copy. So, I can't have one prepared on time like IGN and whatnot will. I wonder how IGN are going to feel about how much water there is in the game. That's right, IGN. Never forget. Thanks for watching. I'm Blunty. We'll catch you next time. 7.8, too much water. Fuck out of here.